In this scenario, I've already dealt 7th Street, and I'm going to show a qualifying hand. At this point, I'm going to ask players for a showdown. Again, I'm going to turn the cards over for demonstrational purposes. Remember to read the high hand first at all times. So in this hand, the player has King High. You announce King High. If the player qualifies for the low, you need to announce that. So I see that the player qualifies for a low because he has 5 cards, 8 or lower, in his hand. And they are from high to low in descending order. 7, 6, 5, 4, 2. In order to read this hand, the dealer will read it from the high card down. So it's called a 76 low. Remember, the high hand in this player's hand is King of Diamonds. That is his high card. And that's his high hand, King High. His low is a 76 low. The next hand, I'm going to turn over and read the high hand. The player's high hand in this hand is a pair of 9s. So you announce pair of 9s for the high. And you're asking yourself, does the player qualify for the low? Remember, he needs to have 5 cards, 8 and lower. In this hand, he only has 3 cards, 8 and lower. So he doesn't qualify. So this is how you would call the hand. Pair of 9s for the high, no low. You need to let the player know that he didn't qualify for the low hand. But I am not going to muck anybody's hand at this point because you have to remember who has the high and who has the low. Remember the first player's hand? His high hand was King High only, was a high card, but he did have a low, 76 low, so he qualifies for part of this pot so far. The next hand here is a pair of 9s, no low. The pair of 9s beats the high card, King High, so I'm not going to muck this hand because this player's hand is entitled to part of this pot so far. Let's continue with the third hand on the board. The high hand here, remember, always start with the high hand first. This player has 2 pair, 10s and 8s with an ace, his high hand. At this point, you're looking to see if he qualifies for the low. He has 5 cards to the low, but remember we can't use a pair. This card is invalid. It can't pair for the low. So he only has 4 cards now. So this player does not qualify for a low. But he does qualify in winning the high hand. The 2 pair, 10s and 8s, beats a pair of 9s. So at this point, after reading everyone's hands, I can now muck this player's hand and bring it in, put it in the muck. I'm going to divide this pot. Remember, I have a high and a low. This player will get half of the pot for the high hand, and this player will receive half of the pot for the low. Let's break down the checks. All you have to do is just make sure they're even. We don't have to count them, $4, $4. Just please make sure both piles are even. The next one will be the reds. The next are the 50-cent pieces. And if you notice, we have one 50-cent piece left over. The odd chip rule will go to the high hand in this scenario. So the high hand is to my right. I will place the odd chip to my right and hand it off to the player. Please pay one hand at a time. Award the pot. Remember to take in the player's cards. You gave this player 7 cards. Don't leave him until you get the cards in return. Awarding the low hand, the 76 low. Remember the index finger goes on top when you hand off checks. Collect the player's 7 cards and put them in the muck. And that hand demonstrates the 7-card high-low stud, 8 or better.